Hello and welcome to National Focus. I am Julian Morris. In the headlines, the People's Republic of China donates close to $400,000 in medical equipment and supplies to Dominica. Dominica to build new geothermal power plant. And the way to Kabali National Trail to see rehabilitation. The details of the headline stories and more when we return. Welcome back. The People's Republic of China, through the Chinese Embassy, recently made a donation of an ambulance and hospital equipment to the Dominica China Friendship Hospital. Present at the handing over ceremony was Minister for Health, Wellness and Social Services, Honorable Kasani Laville, Ambassador of the People's Republic of China to Dominica, His Excellency Ling Changjiang, and the top officials of the Ministry of Health and the Dominica China Friendship Hospital. His Excellency Ling Changjiang says this year marks the 60th anniversary of the dispatch of Chinese medical teams to foreign countries. His Excellency says medical technology cooperation between the Republic of China and the Commonwealth of Dominica began in 2009. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Wellness and New Health Investment, Letitia Lestrade-Wyke, thanked the Chinese government for its generosity. She said sharing China's resources with Dominica has been of great value to the healthcare system over the years.
Ambulance and the medical equipment will be used at Dominica China. I have been privileged to be a part of many handover ceremonies organized in collaboration with the Embassy of the People's Republic of China. And I must say that I never grow weary of this, simply because your generosity has been exceptional and the items donated has always been substantial and it has always met the needs of the Ministry of Health and our country in general.
Minister for the Environment, the Honorable Kozia Frederick, has welcomed the completion of Phase 1 of the Geothermal Development Project. The successful completion of Phase 1 of the project means that the Geothermal Development Company can now focus on the construction of a new power plant. Minister Frederick is optimistic about the potential of the project to fast-track Dominica towards energy security.
Once we have energy security on the island, we can push forward in many fronts. We speak to building a new international airport, we speak to developing our tourism product, developing our tongues. And so it's an exciting time for us to be in government, and it's an exciting time to show our commitment to the Dominican people that we are indeed placing our best foot forward in terms of building a climate resilient country and making a more dynamic space for future generations.
The minister believes the development of geothermal power is in keeping with Dominica's sustainable development thrust.
It is also important to note that that within the constructs of the geothermal sector, I understand it to be a very progressive movement. It's one that is in line with dealing with nature, and how do we move away from carbon emissions and and affecting the environment in a negative way by creating a massive carbon footprint. So geothermal itself is the response, a positive response to dealing with the environmental issues that face the world.
Dominica is taking seriously its role in working towards helping reduce the effects of fossil fuels on the planet, even if, as a small country, it's not among the big first world polluters.
We are not a major emitter of pollution to the environment, yet we are on the front line of climate change. And so a project like this, it's not a pie in the sky anymore. It's physical work. We are here in the trenches, we are in the tarish, as we say it, and to really sign off and continue to pledge towards building a progressive country. And the leadership is very important. So there is already the political will, and there's the leadership at the cabinet level through Dr. Henderson, who's very passionate about the project, who sits around the table and advocates for it more than ever. And I'm so happy to be willing to understand it more and to able to support him in our negotiations, even within the cabinet, to better make investments for this project.
Minister with responsibility for energy, Dr. the Honorable Vince Henderson, believes geothermal energy should be Dominica's main focus.
So that Dominica needs to, as a national project, decide to move forward with expanding geothermal in the immediate future. And while I love solar, and I know there's a big push to wind and offshore wind in particular, Dominica really, to put it crudely, has no business going and make major investments in solar. Dominica needs to fully utilize this resource that we are standing on here in Loda, because we have the potential and we have proven it. This is not science fiction, this is not fantasy, this is real.
The minister has remained committed to the goal of energy independence for years.
We have the potential there. What we must do as a country is to be determined to do the hard work. I have been doing this for the last 20 years. When I got into cabinet, as young as my pal rep is now, I took on the charge for the development of geothermal in the early days, since 2002. I had no clue what that was about except for the research I had done. And this has been my life's work. And I am prepared, once this is done, I am happy to retire from public office, because this is the most important thing for me that I've been pursuing over the last 20 years.
While stopping short of giving a time frame to allow for negotiations, Minister Henderson says he is looking forward to the construction of a new geothermal power plant.
So I am excited to see that we have now achieved another milestone, and we are pushing on to get to the actual construction of our power plant. We have been in active negotiations with a private developer, and we are hoping to conclude negotiations in the next several weeks, so that we can actually see construction beginning here in the near future.
Julian Morris for the Government Information Service. Prime Minister the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit has called for a comprehensive review of the education system in the region. Prime Minister Skerrit was speaking at a two-day regional symposium on violence as a public health issue, the crime challenge.
Our school systems now are focused solely on preparing students for examinations.
Passing exams.
External examinations, national examinations. And there is absolutely no time in the 5 hours or so that the students spend in the school setting for anything to do with the welfare and well-being of the children. Yeah. We don't take time to understand where they came from, where they come from, where they live, the economic circumstance, and to appreciate their behaviors in the classroom. And I think if coming out of this very timely engagement, I want to commend the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago for this, we could highlight the need for an urgent review of our education system. I believe that that would help tremendously in helping to dry up the recruitment ground for these violent behaviors.
Prime Minister Skerrit says there needs to be a focus on anti-social behavior, which leads to violent crimes. He called on civil society to play their part in the upbringing of our children.
And of course, we come to the point of the various groups in society abdicating their responsibilities. The whole concept of it takes a village to raise a child. Now it is solely to the Ministry of Education to educate our children. Where are our parents and guardians? Where is the clergy in its missionary work, its evangelical work? Where is the business community? The business community, we are more concerned about the dollar profits. And we only talk about crime when it affects our businesses, not because our children are dying, necessarily. And I think that we need to get the different groups in the society to spend more time in terms of what is my contribution to addressing the social challenges confronting our country.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Blue and Green Economy has hosted a stakeholder engagement on the White Kabali National Trail Segment 1. The engagement took place on Monday morning at Ordnance Wellness Retreat in Soufrière. The stakeholder engagement plan is a requirement of the Global Environment Facility, leveraging ecotourism projects for biodiversity protection in Dominica. The goal of this SEP is to enhance social and environmental sustainability of the project by improving and facilitating decision-making and creating an atmosphere of understanding that actively involves project-affected people and other stakeholders in a timely manner, and that these groups are provided sufficient opportunity to voice their opinions and concerns that may influence project decisions from an early stage. In this regard, residents of the Soufrière constituency were informed of plans for the rehabilitation of Segment 1 of the White Kabali National Trail. The rehabilitation of the trail will allow for easier access to the site, increase the quality and value of the hike, as well as create employment opportunities for people in that area.
In any World Bank project, there are certain criteria you must follow, okay? And one of them being is doing a risk assessment to assess all the environmental and social risks of that project and to put in place mitigation measures to reduce the impacts of those risks. Now, even though you consider just repairing the trail might not have much significant risk, but it must be documented just in case something goes wrong. It's just like insurance, okay? Now, one of those documents that must be prepared for that is what you call the Environmental and Social Management Plan. For short, we call it ESMPs, which identify all the risks of the project and then put in mitigation measures to reduce those risks.
Mr. McIntyre says full support is needed from the communities in order to fulfill the requirements of the stakeholder engagement plan.
This is important because it provides an open and transparent engagement between the community and the project. And this is an essential part of good international practice, okay? It also improves social and environmental sustainability of the trail rehabilitation works. It enhances the project acceptance. That means you're gonna accept the project in your community. That's critical. You don't want people just coming and bringing loads of tariffs and loads of materials there and you don't know what's happening. This is what we call early stakeholder engagement, and this is critical to get your input into the program.
New amenities will be put in place to enhance the site. Mr. McIntyre highlighted some of the areas to be developed during the rehabilitation process.
Certain areas need expansion, okay? So tourists can have easier access. You have to clear the bushes. You have to place certain rocks or logs in certain areas to increase traction so that tourists or travelers will not slip and fall. We're building steps, providing drainage to control or to reduce erosion. We'll be building infrastructures and different amenities, benches, tables, viewing platforms, picnic areas. So all this we'll be building along the national trail, okay? We'll have directional signs, trail markings on trees or rocks, and other permanent features.
Consultation meetings will be recorded and documented by the project implementation unit to capture comments from participating stakeholders. The Leveraging Ecotourism for Biodiversity Protection project aims to coordinate and improve the government's intersectoral approach towards more effective planning and management of protected areas and forest ecosystems. You're watching National Focus. More when we return. Welcome back. Chairman of the Board of the Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation, Benoit Badwill, says donations of equipment to the corporation will help in the better management of its resources. This as he addressed the handing over ceremony held last Friday as the European Union donated a brand new excavator to the Solid Waste Management Corporation. Mr. Badwill stated that this equipment will assist the corporation in carrying out its duties.
For us, it is a change in time because it will allow management to be empowered to be able to undertake the tasks that they are required to do, especially in terms of managing waste at the landfill. We want to say to you, Honorable Minister, that we are extremely thankful for you, for your support and for your readiness to come to the assistance of the Solid Waste Management Corporation. And whenever we call or we knock on your doors are always open to us to discuss whatever ideas we may have coming from the board. And I know we've been at it for some time in terms of trying to see how we can begin to manage our resources.
Mr. Badwill stated this new piece of equipment will not only assist the corporation in doing its work more effectively, but it will also assist them in better managing their financial resources.
When we have a piece of equipment as good as this one that we are provided with, Ms. Roberts, we will assure you that we will take good care of this equipment and we will seek to put it to work so that it can not only lead to a better environment in terms of the way in which we manage the landfill, but help the management of the Solid Waste Management Corporation to better manage their financial resources. Because this will now come under the purview of the staff and management, and we will want to ensure that the entire useful life of this equipment can be taken to the advantage of the Solid Waste Corporation.
The board will continue to create new policies aimed at safekeeping the equipment while also carrying out its duties to the environment.
We need the help of all our users, all of the persons, both in the private and in the public sector and within the domestic space, that we would like persons to begin to reduce their waste by ensuring that those things that can be reused, we try to reuse them. Those things that can be recycled, we try to recycle them. Because it's in doing so that we can reduce the impact on the landfill here at Fonkole. We want to assure you, Minister, that we'll be continuing to, from the board standpoint, undertake policies and strategies that will help us to be able to better protect the environment in terms of our sustainable initiatives. And we would want to ensure that in doing so, utilizing this equipment in various ways and means whereby we can maximize the use of it.
The proper management of the moored fishing aggregating device, Mfat, is necessary to maintain a sustainable fishing industry, says FAO Sub-Regional Coordinator Dr. Renata Clark. The use of Mfats has greatly increased in the Caribbean region in recent decades. The lack of proper management plagues Mfat fisheries across the region and threatens the optimization of social and environmental outcomes. As part of efforts to improve the management of the Mfat fisheries, the Food and Agriculture Organization is hosting the 5th meeting of the Joint Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism, CRFM, in Dominica from Monday, April 17 to April 19. While addressing the meeting, Dr. Clark stated that the use of Mfads calls for proper and consistent management.
FAD fisheries management and development are of concern, given that the use of MFADs affects fishing practices with subsequent challenges to fulfilling biological, social, economic, and ecosystem objectives, depending on the local circumstances. This raised the critical need for sound and consistent management and monitoring measures, hence justifying the strong emphasis by the EU-funded project over the last couple of years. The findings of a regional survey on the MFAD's fisheries in the Wekofsee region which cast valuable light on the fishery in the region, informed the development of 3 documents which feature in the agenda of this meeting.
She explained that these documents were endorsed as interim documents to guide the management of MFADs.
The Regional Caribbean Management Plan, a guide on local management plan development, and the WECFC guide for improved monitoring of MFAD catches and improved assessment of MFAD impact on stocks. Discussed at the 4th working group meeting and then again at the 11th session of the Scientific Advisory Group, the Regional Management Plan and the Guide for Monitoring of MFADs were endorsed as interim documents by the 18th session of WECFC in July of 2022. It was recommended to work intercessionally in order to finalize them for the subsequent plenary of WECFC, which is slated for September of this year.
Dr. Clark added that the participants of the 5th Joint CRFM meeting will get the opportunity to share experience and knowledge in the tracking and the management of the MFADs.
In this meeting, you will also have the opportunity to be introduced and discuss another key instrument developed within this last intercessional period, the Manual on MFAD Governance. You will have the opportunity to be engaged in the decision-making regarding the status of 4 existing but not very well known MFAD manuals produced 8 years ago. Another important aspect of this meeting is the opportunity for sharing of experience and good practices in management, tracking of the deployed FADs, and monitoring of the effectiveness of measures enforced.
Dominica will continue to strengthen its relations with the Republic of Ecuador as a new ambassador has been welcomed to the island. His Excellency Jose Maria Borja Lopez presented his credentials to President of Dominica, His Excellency Charles Safra, on Friday, April 14, 2023. Dominica and the Republic of Ecuador established diplomatic relations since 2009 and have since fostered a great friendship. President of Dominica, His Excellency Charles Safra, is confident that the relationship between these 2 countries will continue to flourish, as well as the cooperation with CARICOM member states, the Organization of American States, OAS, and the Community of Latin America and Caribbean States, CELAC.
Dominica looks forward to our continued cooperation and collaboration, to the sharing of ideas and the strengthening of our commitments to our regional and international organizations. Your Excellency, we in Dominica are similar in many ways to Ecuador. We have a similar climate and topography. We're tropical, mountainous, and volcanic, blessed with many rivers and heavy rainfall, which makes us lush and green. Ecuador, however, though one of the smallest states on the South American continent, is more than twice as large as Cuba and larger than Guyana.
Dominica and Ecuador signed a Memorandum of Understanding on August 14, 2014 to encourage various forms of cooperation in the areas of economic development, trade, science and technology, culture, information and communication technologies, sports and tourism.
It is my expectation that during your tenure, these expressed interests will be transformed into active bilateral and regional cooperation, and that the Ecuadorian government will favorably consider entering into a technical cooperation agreement with the government of Dominica in areas of mutual interest. The potential for cooperation in sectors such as agricultural research, agroforestry, fishing, flour production, among others, are areas of great interest.
New ambassador of Ecuador to Dominica, His Excellency Jose Maria Borja Lopez, says Dominica can count on his commitment to strengthening the partnership between the 2 countries.
The 2 countries have taken important steps to consolidate their friendship, but we have many tasks ahead for us in order to achieve the well-being for our people. Dominica is a beautiful country that attaches great importance to education, sports, and cultural developments. Visiting Dominica means getting closer to its landscapes, its tropical jungle, its beautiful beach and waterfalls, but above all, its wonderful and friendly people.
Dominica anticipates the growing presence of Ecuador in the Caribbean region. The island also looks to strengthen relations both bilaterally and multilaterally in dealing with the challenges confronting small island developing states and the coastal states, to include climate change and other pressing areas. The East Coast Road project remains one of the major investments currently being undertaken in Dominica. The Ministry of Public Works, Public Utilities and Digital Economy continues to engage residents of the East Coast on the developments of the road project. A community consultation on Lot 2 was hosted in Salibia last week, where engineering consultant in the Ministry of Public Works, Mr. Kendall Johnson, provided a technical update on the advancement of the project. The project entails civil works to include slope stabilization, street lighting, installation of sidewalks, and the rehabilitation of roads and bridges on the East Coast. As of April 13, 14 of the 15 retaining walls for this project have been completed. In efforts to make drainage more resilient, the project will also see the installation of 77 culverts.
The 5-feet culverts, that's complete. 55 of the 4-feet culverts, those are complete. We have 4 oversized culverts, those are complete. The U-drains are well on the way. And also, we have the bridges to do. That's Livelor and Belfield. The erection of the main structural members will start at the end of this month. All of the members are on island. They are on the port. So sometime by this week into early next week, those will be transported to site, and then you will see what the bridge is going to look like.
Lot 2 of the project, with a road span of over 22 kilometers, will run from Castle Bruce through the Kalinago territory to Hatton Garden.
The excavation and widening works are in progress, substantially completed. Similarly, the stabilization works as well of the slopes. We have 42 retaining walls to do. 2 are complete. Culverts, there are 91 of the 5-feet culverts. 21 are complete. The 4-feet culverts, we have a total of 53. 14 have been placed just to now construct the inlet and outlet structures. And we also have quite a bit of drainage to do of a similar magnitude for the previous lot 1.
Lot 2 of the project will also see the construction of 3 bridges, namely the Castle Bruce Richmond Bridge and Pigwa Bridge.
You have seen that we have started works on the Castle Bruce Bridge with the construction of the bypass. Richmond Bridge bypass is okay. And we have not started pavement works yet, but that will be done after we have done all of the drainage works. So in a nutshell, that's what the scope is, and also timelines. All of the major works on Lot 1, which is with respect to concrete, are done.
Over $136 million has been invested in the East Coast Road project, to include the compensation for land. Funding for this project has been made available through the Government of Dominica and the World Bank under the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project, DVRP. Government continues to invest in improved road networks as the safety of citizens remains of paramount importance. The development of road infrastructure also takes the country one step closer to its goal of building the world's first climate-resilient nation. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. Be sure to follow GIS Dominica on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter. You can also drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm. From all of us here on the GIS News Production team, I am Julian Morris. Thanks for watching.